Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Clock Talk with Greg Brannon. Greg, 15 minutes of lots of information, and today we're going to talk about metabolism. Are you ready?
I hope metabolism's ready to go.
All right.
Appreciate it.
So what is metabolism?
I mean, really simply put, it's turning food into energy. That's all it truly is. There's three sources of fuel: fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. And they each have their own processes to go into our body to make these things called ATPs. ATPs are dollar bills, let's call them. And when an ATP cleaves off one P and becomes an ADP, it releases energy. It sounds really nerdy, but everything we do is that point. Example, cyanide poison. Everybody hears about cyanide poison? It blocks that process. In seconds, we die. So metabolism is turning food into energy.
All right. So when you hear sometimes that so-and-so can eat a lot of food and they're thin, and other people have a little bit of food and they're not thin, there's that saying out there that, they have a very fast metabolism. That's more about burning energy than it is about the conversion of food into energy.
Right. It's the mechanism that controls it. There's two major hormones for energy: testosterone and thyroid. I'm going to focus on thyroid first. So in our cell, we have called the cytoplasm, which is the cell itself and everything inside it. Inside the cytoplasm, you have the nuclear membrane, which has the DNA. And you also have this little, they call it the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. It's a double membrated structure as well. And what's important is you could convert energy within the cytoplasm or within the mitochondria. Back to our ATPs. When you convert energy, and I'll go which one in a moment, convert in the cytoplasm, that leads to 2 ATPs. If you convert sugar, glucose, in the mitochondria, that gives you about 38 ATPs. Fat molecules also uses mitochondria. It's called beta oxidation. And it depends how long the chain is, that can give you hundreds of ATPs. So it has to be a balance of all of those. So what controls that, the thyroid, it's like a little bow tie on our neck. The thyroid makes these hormones, T0, T1, T2, T3, and T4. T3 is the real active one. That turns on the mitochondria. So that is actually, if you have a more efficient thyroid, you have more efficient mitochondria, i.e. more efficient metabolism. But there's multiple environmental factors that can mess that up. We'll spend some time talking about that.
Sure. So let's go into that.
Okay,
what are they?
It's very important. If you would close your eyes and picture our periodic table from chemistry when we were in high school, they're grouped into areas, and they're grouped based upon categories and then sizes. They go from smaller to larger. And there's a group called halogens. Halogens go fluoride, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatin, right?
All right.
It covers a lot. All of those are poison to our body because they compete with iodine. Iodine is the only one that's not the poison. It's essential for life. So what happens in our environment with fluoride and chlorine in the water, bromine in our water, bromine in our food, it's competitive. And when that happens, that makes that much more inefficient. And that can lead to metabolism breaks up.
So let's just take bromide, for example. It's in our bread these days.
It's in Gatorade, our bread. It's everywhere.
It's ingested into the body. And kind of just walk us through then how that affects the thyroid and mitochondria, et cetera.
So what happens is fluoride and bromine are smaller than iodine. And based upon the size, there's more affinity to the binding to the iodine. So fluoride binds the most to the thyroid gland. Bromine second. So it's called competitive inhibition. Just picture there's one space and they're all fighting for that. Iodine being larger, but more essential, has less affinity. So you got to add iodine back to higher levels to displace that. So when that happens, the thyroid works inefficiently. They took iodine out of our food, as you talked about in our bread, in 1979. You look back at the data, thyroid disease increased around 8-fold. In women higher than men, because breast tissue needs iodine. And by the way, in men, prostate does as well. We'll talk, it protects these gland structures. So now you have a thyroid is essential. It gets saturated around 3 milligrams of iodine. After that, it protects breast for women, prostate for men. So it really is simply two things can operate in the same space. So you want to get as much iodine in there as possible. That makes that more efficient. And then mitochondria and interesting, mitochondria, this is mind-boggling, Jim. What happened last few years when we were, this whole idea that carbon dioxide is a poison. Carbon dioxide, we breathe oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. But at the cellular, the microscopic level, even smaller than the cellular level, CO2 is essential. Proper concentrations of CO2 is actually life-saving because it actually, the higher the concentration of the CO2 at the cellular level, actually stimulates more mitochondria formation.
But how would one get more CO2?
It's beautiful. It's how and what food we process that. Carbohydrates processed via mitochondria. One of the byproducts is called respiration, cell respiration. There's the byproducts of turning oxygen into carbon dioxide. So cellular respiration was called. So that we get it by actually burning carbohydrates in the mitochondria efficiently.
Okay.
And fat as well can do it through beta oxidation. It's called electron transport chain.
So is there such a thing that a human could affect their metabolism?
Yes, I really do believe so. I think by keeping the thyroid optimized, the other hormone level that's very essential for all energy is testosterone. That is like truly the fuel, the gasoline for every cell to do its functions. So when those are optimized in the system, then the bottom line is we got to do the right things: sleeping, exercise, working out, and eating the proper food. And metabolism all is really truly based on what you eat, how you eat it, and when you eat it. They're crucially important. The whole idea of 3 meals a day and 3 snacks spread out like that is terrible. You want to eat within an 8 to 12 hour window because you want to make sure that the insulin's turned on properly, not all day, but during this time. And the balance we want to do is a starvation state when your body needs this thing called AMPK turns on versus the building state called the mTOR. So it's that homeostatic balance.
So let's talk about testosterone, and specifically as it relates to metabolism. Does it help process the food and the energy faster?
Yes, it does. It actually goes to the DNA and it binds to the DNA. And what it does is it actually transcribes the proteins you need to actually build muscle or do other functions. In that process, that actually inhibits fat storage and enhances lipolysis, which is fat burning down, i.e. ATPs again. So therefore it burns off the fat and builds the muscle. And the cool thing, Jim, the more muscle mass you have at rest, you burn more fat, because that's called the basal metabolic rate.
So let's simplify that a little bit for the audience. When you said before, the more muscle you have at rest, you burn more fat.
Yeah. So when you have because the muscle needs energy to do its function. So it needs ATPs. So the more muscle you have just at rest, your body will actually burn more glucose, glycogen, i.e. or fat as well, beta oxidation.
Okay. So in theory, when you're sleeping, you're burning
fat the bigger you are. Sarcopenia is when you age, you have less testosterone, has less muscle mass, you're less efficient at cellular respiration.
Okay. Exercise and metabolism.
Exercise, again, goes back to the actual physical act of exercising, putting stress in the muscle, stress in the bone, tells your body, I need more mitochondria. I need more muscle fibers. Then it goes back to the body, and the thyroid and the testosterone working synergistically will increase those processes to be more efficient. It's amazing. Back to the AMPK and the mTOR. In the states of the starvation state, or it's called a non-malnourished starvation state, is when your body knows I have a lot of ADP, I need more ATP, so AMPK turns on. What that does is your body goes, oh, I'm in a starvation state. I'm going to eat the part of the body and the part of the mitochondria that's not working as well. So say you have 100 mitochondria, but only 30 are working. Your body, this thing called lysosome, will go around, eat, and take the carbon out, the nitrogen out. It's recycling these things. So now you have 30 left, but they're more efficient. Now you put stress on the system, i.e. lifting weights, i.e. running, doing things you need to do. Then your body goes, well, I need more mitochondria, but when they come, they're more efficient. It's this balance is crucial. And it's balanced on this other thing called NAD, maybe people have heard about NAD recently, NAD, NADH, those molecules in perfect balance keeps these, we'll go over it a little later, these pathways not too plugged in and not too, like, the pathways are running smoothly. There's not a buildup before or not enough substrate afterwards.
Interesting.
Yeah, it all has to do with electron molecules. All is electrons. Electrons store energy, and electrons are in pairs. And when electrons aren't in pairs, spinning around the nucleus, then that's a free radical. That leads to inflammation. So the key is certain molecules love changing these electrons. And what in the mitochondria, what they do is by pushing these electrons down, it builds called a proton gradient called electron. It's a battery. So that's where the mitochondria stores its energy. I know this is a little nerdy, but it really is simple. It's every food is built in the source. We break the food down, and the food has the potential to make more ATPs as we need them. And that's the key. And the key is the balance. Because if you have too much fuel, too much sugar, too much fat, you can't get through that pathway efficiently. That's when you get overweight. That's when you get your muscles not built. So you have to have enough in, utilize it, enough out.
So there's been a lot of talk about methylation of certain supplements that'll help with the gut. Does that have anything to do with metabolism as well?
100%, Jim. Because what happens is there are a couple things occurring that affect our gut biome that are terrible. There's fatty acids, or a fat is a string of carbons, and they have one bond between each carbon. And if they have a double, that would be a monosaturated, polysaturated, the more polyunsaturated. Where that bond is matters. Our body's built where we should have omega-3s and omega-6s. They should be a 1-to-1 ratio. But with all of our processed foods and seed oil, linoleic acid, that's the nightmare. That is an omega-6. Our body's now we're about a 20-to-1. Also, what that does in the gut of the bacteria in there, the gut, these bad bacteria increases a thing called LPS. That's an endotoxin. So that environment with the xenoestrogens, the atrazines, the phthalates, all those things change the gut biome. That leads to a chronic inflammation that decreases our metabolism. That's why probiotics, enough omega-3 fatty acids, the proper amount of simple sugars, those are crucially important for a healthy gut, because complex sugars are actually food for the bad bacteria.
And that gets into folic acid compared to folate.
Okay, well, I missed that point. So now your gut to absorb it. Now, folic acid, vitamin B9, folic acid, folate is what it's called. Folic acid synthetic. Folate, you absorb it. But 44% of Americans don't have an enzyme, okay, that methylate puts a carbon and 3 hydrogens on it to make it. Vitamin B's are our energy source. Back to our metabolism. These are the cofactors for the mitochondria to work, to break down the protein for energy. And vitamin B's are that cofactor. And what happens is you need to have you need to have that methylation step in your body. It's called MTHFR. Some of us, I don't have that enzyme. So I can only absorb vitamin, folate, but B9, B12 and 9 already methylated. So that's why I take it methylated. As an OBGYN, I used to practice that. Folic acid is increased in neural tube defects. We gave mommies folic acid.
Yeah, it's surprising because there's still people, some OBGYNs, when a woman gets pregnant, they're still talking about, supplementing with folic acid.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a synthetic.
It should be folate, not folic acid. Right. Exactly. Because the folic acid.
Because your body can't process it, right?
44% of us can't.
Right.
And you really talk about metabolism. Fortified cereals are high complex carbohydrates sprayed with folic acid. You give it to a boy before he goes to school. That's ADHD. That's hyper. He can't digest this. He's tired, he's groggy for that. Then he's hyper, he's up and down because your body can't do that. It's very important that you absorb it. So the methylfolation is crucially important for the absorption of these vitamin Bs. I get it. The big thing is we try to make it simple, but it's so complex that nothing in our body works independent by itself. There's something does something to something else.
Right.
That's why balance is key. So I try to make it as simple as possible. Sleep, eat, exercise, remove stress, restore your body with the proper thyroid and testosterone, vitamin D, the things we've talked about for years, so that this beautiful system here could do its job.
I guess the simplest way to think about metabolism is just simply the conversion of food into energy. So if you're eating good food, it's going to convert into good energy.
90%, Jim, of our diseases today were not here 100 years ago, and 90% of our food was not there. That's exactly what you said.
Another great 15 minutes with Dr. Greg Brannon today on metabolism. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, Jim.